I know the popular thing to do these days is to just shit on everything. It's easy clicks. People like negativity, because negativity is more interesting than positivity. It's a lot more funny. But I have to be real. I don't think that Game of Thrones ending was a travesty. If anything, there's a lot of stuff about that ending that I liked. I didn't like everything about it, and definitely Season 8 did a poor build-up towards it, but taken as its own thing, as an individual episode, as a capstone to this series, I think that was a good ending. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Game of Thrones just wrapped. It was the season finale, the series finale. The show is over. We've been with these characters for 8 years, and I understand that a lot of people have an emotional connection to these characters because we have been watching this show for so long. I also have an emotional connection to these characters. I'm thinking of all the different roommates I've had that have come and gone, and all the chicks I've banged after watching an episode. You know, it's been with us so long. It's been a part of our lives in the background, and I understand that people want a resolution that feels like it means something. But again, while I understand that this season didn't perfectly lead into the finale, I think that all the characters got very reasonable, interesting conclusions to their storylines. Everybody kind of ended up in a place that I'm okay with them being at. So when I hear people saying that this finale is worse than the ending of Lost, it's worse than The Last Jedi.
It's officially the worst series finale in the history of television. This is worse than The Last Jedi.
I'm like, come on, guys. It's not great. And again, the lead up to it is bad. Season 8, they did nothing with the White Walkers, who they've been building up across every season. The White Walkers, they were in the very first episode, and at the final moment they go, they're just magic zombies and they don't matter at all. You're like, what? I thought that the whole point of the show was that they were fighting the literal embodiment of death and that the Game of Thrones doesn't actually matter. And they're like, nah, they were just zombies. Let's get back to figuring out who's going to be king. I'm like, all right, well, they just threw that shit out the window. It really makes no sense. I mean, you had characters coming back to life with some sort of ancient dark magic specifically to fight the ancient evil. But in the end, it's like, yeah, you beat them. They're like, who's bringing people back to life? What was the point? And they're like, don't think about it. They literally in the show say, don't think about it.
Lord of Light. We play his game for him. We fight his war and win. And then he fucks off.
I don't imagine thinking about that subject will leave you any happier than before.
All right. Well, that was stupid, and I totally agree that Season 8, it's a big problem not addressing the White Walker plotline or just kind of cutting it short. Biggest flaw of the show, and definitely leaves kind of a sour taste in the mouth. The other big problem was obviously Daenerys going crazy for no good reason whatsoever. I mean, she had some reasons. Obviously, across all the show, she's been slowly becoming more and more willing to use terrible violence to accomplish her aims. But at no point did she ever go, I'm gonna just burn a bunch of civilians in what basically looks like a dragon holocaust. That was bad. That came out of nowhere. The worst part is it would have been really easy to make that work, or at least make it work a little bit better. For instance, her black friend, whose name I always forget because I'm probably racist, instead of cutting off her head before the Siege of King's Landing, I would have actually saved her death for the actual battle. Dany is rushing at the Red Keep, rushing at Cersei and her dragon. Cersei sees her coming. She goes, well, time to use my trump card, and pushes the Black Lady out a window. Daenerys, because she has a heart, she swoops down in the dragon, tries to save her friend, but she's too late. Black Lady smashes on the steps of the Red Keep. Dany swoops down. She's cradling her dead friend in her arms. And remember that they brought all the civilians into the Red Keep to try and keep them safe from Daenerys. So as she's holding her dead friend, they're all throwing rocks at her, and they're like, you horrible dragon lady, you're ruining everything. And here's all these civilians that she's come to save, and they don't even respect her, and she goes fucking nuts and just starts burning people. At least that, we would have had some sort of reason for us to believe, like, oh, she's mad at the people she's come to save because they don't respect her. Instead, it's just like, I'm pissed about nothing in particular. Time to just burn it all. Why? What do you accomplish? So yeah, that was absolutely awful. Makes no sense. Okay. And again, what I'm talking about here with the ending is, let's pretend that they led up to that in an acceptable manner, okay? Because I'm not critiquing the season as a whole right now. I'm critiquing the final episode. So yes, the way that everybody got to the final episode was pretty stupid, but the final episode itself, I think it stands up. Now, mostly I want to focus on this idea that it's somehow worse than The Last Jedi, which is just untrue. There's no way. It is not even anywhere close to being as bad as The Last Jedi, and here's why. Now, first of all, comparing Star Wars to Game of Thrones is already a bad idea. Star Wars is a standard fantasy sci-fi epic. That means we know what story beats need to be hit. The hero has to defeat the bad guy, he needs to get the girl, the universe needs to be saved. All of that makes a great traditional fantasy epic. But Game of Thrones has always been about getting away from these traditional hero's journey stories where, yes, your favorite characters are going to die, they're going to do bad things, they're not going to be perfect paragons of virtue. The idea that there are shades of gray is what Game of Thrones has always dabbled in. So saying all of a sudden that, oh, all these characters didn't get to be great heroes in the end, that was never going to happen. And I know that's not everybody's complaint, but that is a thing I'm hearing from some people. For instance, there's people mad that Daenerys turned out to be evil. Okay, that was going to happen, man. Like, you should have figured that out. She burns a woman alive in the first season. And I had a big argument with a lot of people about this. They're like, well, yeah, they only burned her alive because she's a witch and yeah, okay, but you can execute people by cutting their heads off and make it quick. Okay, when you're burning people alive, that means you have a particular taste for violence, which is not healthy. You're not a healthy person if your idea of justice is listening to your enemies scream as they burn alive. Dany was always a character who was heading down this path of violence, and if you expected her to be, I don't know, some sort of great hero in the end, you were very clearly misleading yourself. Another complaint I hear is that Jon didn't get to be king. Jon didn't get a bunch of fanfare and trophies and laurels at the end of the show. He just kind of fucked off to the north to, be alone with the wildlings. Now, I understand this might seem like what they did to Luke Skywalker's character, where Luke Skywalker ended up as a bitter, angry old man, but there's a lot of difference there. I think the most obvious difference is that we had already seen the end of Luke Skywalker's trilogy, We saw that Luke Skywalker got to be that great hero. So you can't wait 40 years and go, by the way, he ended up miserable and alone. Because we've spent those last 40 years being like, Luke Skywalker's in our heart. He's a great hero. And then all of a sudden rip the fucking rug out from under us after all these years of loving this character. That was terrible. But we were still in the midst of Jon Snow's character arc. It wasn't as if Jon had become a great hero and then we waited 30 years and came back and went, oh no, actually he fucking was terrible. Everything has gone horribly for him and he's miserable. No, we were still on his path. We didn't know where it was going to end up. So at the end, them being like, not everything works out for everybody, it's perfectly fine. And in a way, I think that's the best thing they could have done. If it ended up with Jon just killing the bad guy and ending up king, again, that's your traditional fantasy story, which is not what Game of Thrones is about. And it's honestly much more realistic to say, look, you might do everything right, you might save the world, you might be the greatest person who ever existed and the perfect person for the job, but that doesn't mean you get the job. Okay, that doesn't mean that you get the accolades. That doesn't mean that you get to be the hero. Sometimes life just doesn't work out that way. You do everything right and you still don't get what you deserve. But you saved the world. Jon, you killed the lady who was gonna literally murder millions more. You did the right thing. That's your reward. It's not about the Game of Thrones. Jon ending up on the throne would not have mattered because the throne is not what matters. That's why the dragon burns it, which also makes no sense. I don't know why the dragon's mad at the chair. But the point is, it was never about becoming king, and it was also never about being a great hero that everyone loves and respects. It was about people making complicated decisions. Jon's decision was to do the right thing, even though it didn't lead to exactly what he wanted. Now, I don't know why Grey Worm took him into custody instead of just lopping his head off. Again, there's problems with the ending. You occasionally have to make some jumps of logic and be like, okay, so you killed Daenerys, and then Grey Worm shows up, and Jon goes, I killed the queen, but let's handle this diplomatically and then call a bunch of white people down to decide what happens to me. But you can make some assumptions in your head. Maybe the Northmen said, we'll go to war with you if you kill Jon, and that stayed Grey Worm's hand. He was, rational enough to want to prevent an immediate conflict. So that's why this ending doesn't bother me, because I don't find any huge logical flaws. Compared to The Last Jedi, which just made no sense, okay? I like when a story, I can follow it all the way through. All the characters are doing stuff that kind of makes sense. Again, Dany burning everyone alive didn't really make sense, but I'm not talking about that episode. I'm talking about here now. She's won the war. She's a big Nazi general doing her Triumph of the Will thing as they unfurl a Nazi banner, and she's in the place that logically the show has always tried to be getting her to. She's becoming a tyrant dictator who believes that what she's doing is right. And I actually thought that was a great scene where she's explaining to Jon, she's like, you don't understand. I really am going to break the wheel. I'm going to do everything right. And you can tell she believes it.
It's not easy to see something that's never been before. The good world.
How'd you know? How'd you know it'll be good?
Because I know what is good.
She really believes that she is doing good. And Jon has to make the hard choice of, even though this character has the best of intentions, Dany wants, to free all the oppressed people of the world. She doesn't have the ability to see clearly. She isn't seeing what she's doing. I have to make this hard choice and kill her. Made perfect sense to me. The characters acted logically. Dany logically believed that she knew it was right for the kingdom, and that's why she was continuing down her path of destruction. And Jon, being a character who is noble and good, saw that if the path to good is paved in destruction, it can't truly be the right path forward, and makes the decision to kill her. The characters were acting very logically to me in this final episode. Compare that to The Last Jedi, where I have no fucking idea why not tell Poe the plan? Why not?
Tell us that we have a plan.
Okay, because that's a thing that's not even like, oh, well, maybe there's a reason she's not. There's no reason. There is no possible reason why to not tell Poe the plan except to just try and put a man in his place. It doesn't work. So the only thing we can assume is that Holdo is an idiot, and I'm pretty sure that Rian Johnson didn't want us to think Holdo was an idiot. He wanted us to love the lady with the pink hair and the ball gown. So that's an example of a creator trying to get us to think one thing when giving us something completely different. And I don't think the Game of Thrones writers did that. I think we came away feeling about each character the way they wanted us to feel about them. And I'm seeing some people, they're complaining that the show subverted expectations. Now, I know I'm a guy, I definitely rally against subverting expectations, and I've done it on a couple different occasions. But it's not always bad, and I hope I've never given the impression that it's always bad to subvert expectations. A great example would be Empire Strikes Back. You think that Luke Skywalker is going to defeat the ultimate bad guy, Darth Vader. Turns out, Darth Vader's his father. That's called a plot twist. It's an interesting plot twist. You expected that he was going to fight the big bad guy. Instead, he's going to try and convert the big bad guy back to good. Really, the only problem is when you subvert expectations without any reason, when you're doing it just to be shocking or different. And I don't think Game of Thrones really did that, at least not in any way I can think of. Every time they switched things up on us, they did it for a pretty good reason. I'd say the only thing with subverting expectations that was a big problem, again, is the White Walkers, where they built them up, they said these are the most important things in the history of the world, and then they turned out to be absolutely nothing. That, yes, that is terrible, but I kind of don't even think that was like some sort of conscious choice to be like, oh, let's just really switch it up on our audience and not do anything with that plot thread. That felt more like, we don't know what to do, we're out of time, here's what we got. So, I mean, I'm not going to give them a pass on that. They definitely screwed it up, but I don't think it was like a writer sitting down and being like, ooh, this is really going to show them that they think these zombies are important and they're not. I think these guys just wrote themselves into a fucking corner trying to figure out, we got 6 episodes. Oh my God, how do we wrap this shit up? So that's more poor planning than subverting expectations. Making Bran king seems to be another controversial decision, but again, I'm okay with it. I don't think who becomes king, again, is the point of this show. The point was to do what's right without worrying about some meaningless struggle for power, without fighting over a big chair. And I really like this line about how Tyrion acknowledges he's been a terrible advisor. Every ruler he's ever served, it's turned into chaos and madness.
I thought I was wise, but I wasn't. I thought I knew what was right, but I didn't.
And Bran tells him, you're right, and this is how you're gonna atone, by doing a better job this time around. I thought that was a great message. Tyrion saw himself as a complete failure, and Bran told him, yes, you've failed. Time to make right by it. You can't just give up and go off and die in a corner somewhere. You have to work to make things right. I thought that was great. Now, making the only black character remaining in the series into a horrible murderer, I felt a little weird. I feel like maybe Grey Worm could have also had a moment of redemption there. Again, we were talking about why did he just take Jon into custody? Why did he leave him alive? Maybe there he could have shown a little bit of humanity. He could have realized that what Daenerys was doing was wrong. Ends up being Bran's, master of war or something. Instead, he's just like, fuck it. I'm an angry black man who kills people. I'm getting on a boat. I'm leaving. That was bad. I'm not going to lie there. Sansa becomes Queen of the North. I think we all saw that coming, and I don't think anybody's upset with it. She's gone through her struggles. I think she's proven herself. She's going to be a capable leader. So good. A fantastic ending for Sansa. Arya is going on a magic boat adventure. I think that's reasonable. I think her character was tragically underused. There was no reason for her to kill the Night King. Why did I watch Arya acquire all these assassin skills only to use them once to kill an old man? So her taking her new skills and going off on a new adventure, I think that's good. I like that character sailing off into the sunset. And I thought the moment between her and Jon realizing that they'd probably never see each other again, or if they did, they'd both be old and dying. That was the biggest emotional moment in the show for me. I actually felt that, and I like that a lot. And one last point I want to make about this show versus Star Wars. Star Wars are self-contained movies. And writing a movie, making a movie, is a lot easier than making a TV show, okay? A movie script is, 80 pages long, and you can take that and make a very concise story. You can find ways for the characters to interact so everybody gets their moment. Trying to make a perfect TV show with all these characters, all these interweaving plot threads, and everybody needs their perfect moment at the end, it can't be done. Anybody who could do it is a genius beyond geniuses. I don't think it's possible to make a TV show that gets everything 100% right just because making a TV show is such a Herculean task to begin with. To constantly be writing new scripts, constantly coming up with the next place in the plot, it's too much. Why do you think it's taking George R.R. Martin so much time to write these books? Okay, because it's hard to write this stuff. You are constantly revising, and when you're doing it on a TV schedule where you're like, gotta make the next episode, you're gonna make some mistakes. They made some big mistakes in this final season, but in terms of this finale, again, I think they nailed what they needed to nail. So I think this is anything as bad as The Last Jedi? Absolutely not. Is it the best piece of television I ever watched? No. Was it a great season? Hell no. It was a fucking weird season that made a lot of mistakes and definitely should have took its time. Probably needed an extra 6 episodes to really make all these story beats work. But I don't come away going, oh, I wasted the last 8 years of my life watching this show. This show has given us so many great moments, so many great characters. I'm not coming away from this thinking I've wasted my life by watching this show. I come away thinking that was a great show. It had so many great moments. Not every moment was an A+ moment. There was plenty of D grade, F grade moments. But the moments that were great, they were great. And this ending, honestly, gives me a resolution. I'm happy with where we ended up. Do I love every part of the journey? No, but I'm happy with the final destination. Anyway, that's my take. I know people are probably going to be in the comments already telling me I'm a big idiot, bringing up everything I didn't take into account. I know. Look, and I have problems with the show. I plan on doing a big video talking about all of Season 8 and all the problems it had, but do let me know in the comments, what did I miss out on? Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell. If you click the bell, you're going to get notifications. People have not been getting notifications. You gotta smash that bell. Peace and love in 2019, and we got more cool videos coming soon.